Masechta Chullin, Daf Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph. We're starting from 12 lines from the bottom. Daf Lamed Beis Amud Beis. The word starts with Gufa. Handsome, are you here in the picture? Okay, we got you. Okay, here we go. Gufa. We had learned previously. Rab Shimon ben Lakish. Rab Shimon ben Lakish said, Shachat es-hakona, if he shechted the windpipe, and then between the shechting of the windpipe and shechting the food pipe, and nikva areya,
the reya. Yesterday. You had full Lamed Gimel.
Nikva areya.
Fire.
Oy, oy. So the reya had a hole in it. So what does it mean nikva areya? So the reya. Oh, so no, it's not possible because when you shech the windpipe and the ray, it's really connected. It's one. Once you shech the air pipe, the ray is like muruch b'kufs. It's like muruch b'sal on the side. It's already nothing.
We learned that yesterday.
We learned it, so it's a continuation. So he's saying if he cut the windpipe, which is connected to the lungs,
There's a hole in it.
so if he already shechted it and then a hole was punctured into the lung, he said it's not a problem. It's not treif. It's like it was cut, and since it was already cut, it's as if the raya wasn't there.
In other words, the whole happened afterwards.
The whole happened, it happened
It's like
afterwards.
once it's dead, it's done.
Right, very good. Almost. Wow. Yeah. Amar Rabbi said, "Lo Yamar Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish." Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish did not say it. Ella only bereya, only if it's areya. Areya meaning only if it's the lung that was punctured after the windpipe was geschachten. But because since the whole reya, the whole lung is dependent on the windpipe. But what's if they're cutting the windpipe? The intestines, the kishkis, was punctured. Now the kishkis has nothing to do with the windpipe. So then the din is the behemoth's treifa, because that's like it's a hole that's not connected with the part of the shechita, so it's a hole elsewhere. Treifa, right? No, he was geschachten, so we're going to say it's treifa. Maskal Abzeda is the kasha. What are you talking about? Machash another simari treifa. He tarta. If the behemoth had the simanim of treifa between shechting the windpipe and shechting the food pipe, it had the simanim of the puncture in the kishkis. It should be mutter. You're being mated. Mali brio, mali b'nei. Who cares? What's the difference if it's bereya? What's the difference if the puncture was in the lungs or the puncture was in the kishkis? It should make a chilik, because we have the saying of ein treifa lachatzi chayis. There's no treifa once the animal's half dead. It's not shaykh to say, okay, it's half dead and now it's becoming treif. There's no treif when it's half dead. So therefore it's considered a regular shechita. You continue with the shechita, even though it happened between the first siman and the second siman. There's no inyan of treifa between the first and second siman, because once you cut the first half, it's already half dead, and it's not shaykh to it.
After the shechita, they found the puncture.
Then they found after the shechita there was a puncture in the reya. It's still going to be kosher. You shech the second siman, the veshet, because it's not shaykh. That is the treifa doesn't affect anything. It's already half dead. Rabbi Shmuel Isaac Popak, my father used to fight with him a lot. I told you that my father asked him one time, "Du machst Geld?" Hat gesagt, "Für machen Geld geht man in jail. Ich mach business," sagt So he asked my father. It says, "Ain't other mace." You understood what I said?
Yeah.
Ain't other mace v'chatz kaves b'yada. A person doesn't die with the half of desires, even with the half of desires that he wants. So the question is, he asked my father, "Mishesh leiman reitz masayim." So it says in Pirkei Avos, if somebody has a mana, he wants 200. So you see, Bechaya, he wants He already has half of his desires. He has a mana. He wants mana and he wants Masayim. That means he has half his desires. So my father told me learning Pshat right. Mishesh le'mana. Reutz Masayim. Chutz von der mana will noch at 200. Is nicht halb. Anyway, over here it says Chatzi. If he's Chatzi dead,
It's not Messiah.
it's not right. So he's Chatzi dead. There's not Shaykh Treifa. Once he shechs one of the Simonim, it's already half dead. It's not Shaykh to become Treif, and therefore he shechs, and it's all kosher. Says the Gemara, but Reb Zera. And Reb Zera Taka retracted, and he holds like Rava that Reish Lakish, because why did Reb Zera retract? Because the reason of Reish Lakish ain't Treif Lechatzi Chayis. He retracted, and he holds like Rava that what? That if there was a puncture between the windpipe and the veshet, a puncture in the kishkis, it will be a treifa. Why? Because he says, look, the b'nei ma'ayim, when there's a puncture, it's still living, because the main food pipe where the food goes down is still intact. It's just a little puncture in the kishkis of a celeb, so it's not. So it's considered treifa between the kana and the veshet.
Why, it's going to die? It has a puncture in the veshet?
It's not going to in the kishkis, no.
I have a question.
But it's going to die because of the kana that was cut, but not. It's not going to die right away. But it's called treifa. Yes.
You make the deacon the hand out the shop, you just put it away.
You check today for a sikh.
Yeah, so what's with the Maya? Who's looking at
Nobody's. You're right. I don't know. I don't have an answer. I hear you. I don't know how can you tell all these things. Says the Gemara.
No, when you open it up, don't you see?
Yeah, but you don't know what had happened. If it happened before or between. Says-
Well, you can see what kind of
It's,
nekev there is.
if it's a nekev, you can tell it's an old rusty nail that went in. Okay, but not always you can tell. Anyway, the Beit Reb Zera had asked the Shaila, Niktru bnei me'ayin be'similar siman. What's if the kishkis it was punctured between shechting the windpipe, like we spoke about here, and the food pipe? Ma, what's the difference? Mim, it's not a similar shlish sheni. Letara to make it tar mit nevela. Letara from being on nevela. What does that mean? The first siman, his shaila was the first siman. When you're shechting the first siman, you're out to do a regular shechita to be mate sai from being a nevela and to be mate to eat. Now, after the first siman is neiladat treifa, there was a puncture. So the second siman that you're doing is only to take it out from nevela to treifa. What's the chilik? Because nevela is metame b'mago masa, and a treifa it's not metame. Treifa doesn't have any dini truma, only nevela. But the first siman is not equal by shachim. The first siman is not equal to shachim the second siman. By shachim the first siman, not only you want to take it out from nevela, but you want to make it kosher la'achila to be able to eat it. Then you had a puncture, zivan treif. So the second siman is only to take it out from nevela to treifa. So maybe you can't combine it, or maybe since they both have the same, they both have the inyan from taking it out from nevela to treifa. You couldn't even start of the two simanim, the shechita of the two simanim. So Gemara,
It should be, and what are we going to consider it?
it's going to take it out from nevela to treifa, nevela to treifa.
Then it's not in the Bela because they had a good shkita.
But B'Peil Mamish, we're going to see at the conclusion of this Gemara that Rabbi Zera retracted, because Rabbi Zera said there's no such a concept of treifa between the two simanim, right? Now here you see there is, because we're saying once after the first siman there was a puncture, he had the shaila if you could combine the two simanim together, because there was a puncture which made it to treifa, right? So he considers there's an inyan of treifa between the two simanim, and we'll see. He says that Rabbalah, others say, "Hani the boy Ilfa." This is the shaila that Ilfa had. B'chlal, when you shech the behema and there's a uba in the behema, and then the baby comes out of the animal, but the baby was in the animal when you shechted the mother, and then the baby comes out, you can kill the baby, and it's fine. Because you are yoitza with the shechita from the mother. But what if it sticks out a hand in middle of the shechita? So that's like Eva min achai. That part you cannot eat. That part you can.
Unless you
Shech the whole animal after it comes out. No?
But what's if he shechta between the simanim? That's going to be the shaila now. Between the simanim, it stuck out his hand. So what happens now? So the shaila is: could we say the shechita is mitzdarif and it's going to help for the uba or not? We're going to say it inside. I mean, lav hani the bayi ilfa isn't the shaila of ilfa? Hoitzi uba esyade. The uba stuck out his hand out of the mother's stomach. Being similar simin between shechting the windpipe and the food pipe. Mim it started simin rishon l'shein. Do we combine the first simin to the second? Letara midei nevela, to take it out of nevela because the hand was stuck out. So it's like, so is it the hand is a nevela or the hand is going to be a treifa? So oilai.
But the rest is good.
The mother animal was geshacht 100%,
but
the rest of the baby is fine. Just that hand, you have to is either a nevela or a treifa. If it's a nevela, it's metama. No, the mother.
Cut off the hand, but the rest of the hand is good.
No, you don't shech the baby at all.
Yes, okay.
You shech the mother. Now, but while he was shechting the mother, the first simon, the baby stuck out its hand. Then he shechted the second simon. What that hand? What din does it have? It's for sure not shaykh to eat it. But it doesn't have no, it doesn't. Does it have a din nevela or does it have a din treifa?
If the nevela is stop.
If it's nevela, it's metama the hand. The hand could be metama the hand of the behema. If not,
it's a live behema, live baby.
Yeah, but you're gonna kill it. But the hand, you can't eat it. So it's Gemara Adkan lo yibayalach. Till here we didn't have the shaila letanim de nevela, only to be metar bin from nevela of a ba'alchila asura. But you see that if it was between the two simanim, you cannot eat it. It has a different treifa. Sai by the first shaila, Rab Zeta brought down. You remember?
What has treifa?
Let's take the first case, and the second one, the uba also. The uber, the hand, you cannot eat, right, between the two simanim. The same thing by the first case where the kishkis was punctured between shechting the windpipe and the food pipe. So you had a shaila if you could take it out from nevela to treifa, but it's for sure asal ba'achila. Now, Rab Zeta originally said, no, it's kosher to eat. It's not shaykh to become treif. Once you shechted one simin, is so the halacha is ein treifa lechatzi chayis. Once you cut one simin, it's only half living. Half living. Once it's half living, and then it becomes treif. It's not treif. You continue. There's no concept of treif. It's kosher. But here you see that Zeta had charata. He said sinzichas ba'achila. The shaila is if it comes out from nevela to treif or not. So Gemara Rav Ba Rav Ravina Rav said Ravina Dilma Loilam Loyadabe. Maybe Rav Zeta didn't have charata. Maybe he says that the shechita is 100% a good shechita and you can eat it. These two shilas that we brought down that it's also ba'achila. He says for Rav Zeta lidvar the Rava kama. He was referring to Rava. Rava said that the only time that it's the shechita is good if he cut the windpipe and the reya had a puncture, so the reya is part of the windpipe, so it's as if the reya wasn't there, so it's not a problem. But if he cut the windpipe and then there was a puncture in the kishkis, which is not dependent on the kana, so there Rava says it's treif. So he says, according to Rava, I was asking if it happened between the two simanim, if we could combine now the two simanim, because the first siman, when he cut it, it was sai for lachila, sai to take it out from the vela. The second one was after there was a puncture. It's only to take it out from the vela to treifa. But so either will say, since they both have in common that they're out to take it out from the vela to treifa, that it shouldn't be tameh. So you will combine, or maybe not. But it's only according to Rava. But Rab Zeta himself didn't back out. Rab Zeta says you can eat it. It's a good shechita. There's no treifa once it's half the chayis was taken away. He doesn't hold like that. Rav Yaakov said, Shmami Nom Rav Shimon ben Lakish. We have a raya from Rav Shimon ben Lakish that once he cut the siman of Kana, so the raya is as if the Kana with the raya were taken out, even though it's a function, the raya is garnished. It's part of the. It's like in the basket. So he says, you can invite other Jews to eat the kishka, but you cannot invite a goy to eat from the kishka. My time, Yisrael the b'shchita tal yomisa. A Yisrael, what is matter to eat? It's called eva min achai b'atzim. Even when you're cutting and you're taking out a piece from the animal, let's say you take out the kishka from the animal, but the animal after the shchita, the animal's still moving. So a ben Yisrael could eat it because the shchita is matir b'achila, but a goy cannot eat it. He doesn't have dinei shchita, so it's mamish eva min achai if the animal is still moving around. Yeah, sure. Goy tonish that's name min achai. It's one of the seven mitzvah. Yeah, sure. So you're not allowed to invite a goy to eat kishka with you. You could eat the kishka. I'll be tarnished. So I'm going to keep the kishchit mal yasa Israeli. By a yid, once there's a echte shchita, a good shchita, he's allowed to eat the kishka. Oh, but even Yechavim, the benechira sageluhu, he could just give it a schneid through and through. Yeah, he could cut it. You don't need shchita. But misa, talya milsa, for him to be able to eat it, the animal has to be dead
Completely.
Because if not, if until the behemoth dies, because Hanim gave him in a chaydamu. It's considered mamish like Evim Nachai. When he shachs and he takes out the kishka and the animal is moving around, that's mamish Evim Nachai. So the only one that can eat it is a yid, Nishkin Goy. Rav Papa said, I was sitting in front of Rav Yaakov when he said this thing. Uboy the Ema, and I wanted to say, immediately, so is there such a thing? That for a yid is mutter, we should be more makel by a yid and by a goy. As all haben the chumras, as if mir haben alle chumras, alle mitzvahs. Mit haben the goy is gewonnen. Is gewonnen from a goy, wie man sagt, yeah. But I didn't tell him anything. Because I said to myself, what time kama? He said, Papa said, I'm sorry, Rav Yaakov said a good reason behind it. He says, because by uns, the shchita is matter, the kishka. Even though the animal is still moving around, by a goy, it's even min achai. He doesn't have the shchita. It's the only time he can eat it is when the animal is dead. Yeah. Tanya says, the Gemara, we learned on Bryce, still like Rav Yaakov. We learned on Bryce, nish like Rav Yaakov, who says that a goy can only eat if it's dead. Where do we find that? Somebody wants to eat from the behema a piece of meat. Now listen, what kind of meat you're supposed to eat. You're supposed to eat meat while the animal's still shaking. It's much healthier. It's much better meat. So try to get to the animal before the blood. Yeah. Here he says, Basa kazehu me'ula b'yoisa. If you take a piece of meat while the animal's still moving around, it's healthier. Before choytach yizah is basa b'beis hashchita. But you age it after you took it out while it was alive. Choytach, you take out from the meat, from the place where you shachted the throat. Okay. Umayleich yafa yafa, you salt it very well. Umadicha yafa yafa, you rinse it well. Umamtim la achatetz nafsha, and you wait till the animal dies, but you have the meat already from when it was alive. Even though you took out the piece, it was Eva min achai, and Eva min achai is al malasa. Even though the animal dies later, you took it out of the animal while it was Eva min achai, but you said a goy can eat it. So you see, you can eat it. So you see that it's not this brisa is the loik Rav Yaakov, and says and I can bring you another brisa which is matter for a goy to eat from like Eva min achai, from basa, from meat while the animal is still moving around. That type of meat is allowed to have. Where do we see Avidah B'Rabbavan? Arai to Avidah B'Rabbavan. Avidah B'Rabbavan. Rav Yitzchak Bar Shion. Aroitze sheyavri. One who wants to be healthy, what should he do? Choytech yizayis basa mibeis shchita shel behema. take a kezayis of meat while the animal is still alive, from the place where you shechted. Umolcha yafa yafa, salted well. Umadicha yafa yafa, rinse it well. Mountain lamb, wait, till the animal dies. You see that even a guy can eat Eva Menachai. Okay? So,
he doesn't eat right away.
he waits till it dies, but once it's Eva Menachai, it's Eva Menachai forever. It doesn't go away just because the animal died later. If you took it from the animal while it's walking, I hope you hacked afus, and you're going to wait till the animal dies. Okay, but it's Eva Menachai. Okay, Hashaychet Behema. Yes, we can salt and wash and it's good stuff. Zog the Mishnah, Hashaychet Behema Chaya, Be'oiv, somebody who shechs a Behema Chaya or Ana Oiv, V'lo Yatz Mehem Dam, and blood didn't come out. Shadim, it's kosher. And Nechol Yadayim Seyavis, and you could eat it even with Tamidika hands. Because what makes it Mukhshel Kabal Tumah? Blood. Water, blood, these are the minim that could make something that's attached to the ground or meat. Mushal kabel tumah. So even if his hands are tamei, he could touch the behema because the behema doesn't become tamei because it wasn't mushal kabel tumah. Lefish le'yoshuru bedam because no dam came out. It didn't become mushal kabel tumah because of the blood. Reb Shimon Oima hurshuru b'shchita. It became mursha through the shchita itself. Since the shechita is mata the basa, and he gave it a chshivas from achila, so since he gave it a chshivas from achila, so it's like it's cut from the ground. It's muchal achila, so it's as if it's mushal kavatuma. Right. So you about a time, and the whole reason you said that the hands that are tamei could touch the animal and it doesn't become tamei because there was no blood that made it mursha to become tamei. You know what mursha means? When something is attached to the ground. In order to become tamei, it's not going to become tamei. If you throw a sheretz onto something that's connected to the ground, it won't become tamei. But once you put water on it, it becomes mursha l'kabel tumah. Mursha means it's susceptible to tumah.
Even if it's attached to the ground.
Even if it's attached to the ground, correct. And here, the achila, here by the food, by the basa where he shechted, no blood came out to make it susceptible to tummy. So even though his hands were tummy, he can touch the meat. It's not going to become tummy.
Behemoth is considered attached to the ground?
Behemoths it doesn't mean only attached. If for something to become tummy, you need water to touch it. Or blood. And there was no blood. Says Gemara time, and the whole reason why he didn't become susceptible to tumah, the lo yatz mehem dam, because no blood came out of the animal. Lo yatz mehem dam, but if blood would have came out, and would have touched the animal, then Mesavis means tummy. You cannot eat it with tummy the hands because you're being metame the meat. In fact, Yadayim Shniya say. We know Yadayim Bechlal Lechatchila the only Sheni L'Tumah. Ve'ein Sheni I say Shlishi B'Chullin. And a Sheni cannot make a Shlishi. His hands are tummy, but his hands cannot make something more than Sheni tummy. He touches the meat is shlishi, and a sheni cannot make a shlishi. In fact, who says we're talking about chulin? You're right. By chulin, sheni cannot make a shlishi, but maybe we're talking about kachim. Says you can't. You can't say it's talking about kachim. Why? The ktani chayim. We learned amongst the cases of shchita that he was shechting was a chaya. The ilu kachim chayim bekachim miika. You can't. There's no carbon of kachim that can be brought from a chaya, and the Mishnah is talking about shachting a chaya, so you're not talking about kachim. We saw another question. You cannot be talking about kachim. Ibi kachim lo yatz mehem dam sheira. If it's by kachim, is ki lo yatz mehem dam. If blood didn't come out, is it going to be kosher? It's not going to be kosher. By a carbon, what's machshir the carbon to eat? Not the shchita. You still can't eat it after the shchita. Only the zikas adam. So the dam is machshit. If there was no blood, you still can't eat it. So what's helped me?
It's not a good carbon then.
It's not carbon. You can't eat it. You need the dam. So how could you eat it? You can't even eat it. So you can't be talking about kachim because we're talking about that his hands are tamei and they're metame. So they're going to be metame the kachim as a shlishi That's how it will become tam to eat. It says, if there was no blood, you're not going to be able to eat it because it's not because of the shechita that you can eat it. What makes kachim able to be eaten? Through the zikas adam. So another question: if we're talking about kachim, if blood comes out and touches it, does it become susceptible to tumah? We know for something to become susceptible for tumah, it has to be like water. And just like water, where does water go? To the ground. You let it get lost. Here, the blood of a behemoth, you're very specific. You don't want it to go to the ground. You want to save the blood. You want to use it for the mizbeach. How do we know that the blood of kachim cannot make a behemoth susceptible to tumah? That it says that the blood has to pour like water. In order, the liquid has to be such a liquid that it should pour to the floor, leibud, that it should be destroyed like water. You need that the blood should be poured like water. Marsha, then it's going to be marsha, will be susceptible. And here the blood is not leibud, it's not meant to throw on the floor. You want to be makabalit, you want to receive it with a clean, you want to save the blood, you want to save it and to throw it on the mizbeach versus water is the whole water is meant to go to the floor. That's the type that can make a food susceptible to tumah. But dam, that where you're not there to throw it to the floor, you're there to receive with a clean. So it does not make it susceptible to tumah. So we cannot be talking about kachim. Another question. Even if blood doesn't come out of it, it's not going to become moshe l'kabel tumah. It should become moshe l'kabel tumah, just like we said. You remember by the eitzim could be makabel tumah. It's not a Michael. So it says from the extra word vihabasa. You remember we had the extra word vihabasa tells us the wood becomes like an achila, and it's susceptible to tumah. Here also because of the kodesh, it's cherished by kodesh. It's so cherished. It's so balipt. So the kaim alon chipas kodesh machshartam, the etzem zach that it's cherished. That in itself makes it moshe l'kabel tumah. So Gemara Amar Rav Nachman Amar Rabba bar Avua Hacha b'Chullin. We are talking about Chullin, but what's not kachim? And what was the case? Shelekachan b'kesav ma'isa sheni. It was bought. Somebody bought meat. Chullin the meat. He bought Chullin the meat, and he bought it with ma'isa sheni money. So in such a case, one second. He bought it with ma'isa sheni the money. So then, says the Gemara, the loiker Rab Meir, we don't follow Rab Meir, because Rab Meir says, even though it has the kedusha of ma'isa sheni, but if it's a tumah of sheni, it doesn't go to shlishi. So he says, we're not going to say like Rab Meir. We're going to say like the Chachamim, that even by ma'isa sheni, from a sheni, hands with a sheni l'tumah, can make a shlishi. Where do we see that? It's not. We learned in the Mishnah Masechta Parah. Kol hatolim bias ma'im adivisafim. Anything that's needed mitzad the gezerah, something that's tamei because of a gezerah's chachamim. And the chachamim said either he has to wash his hands or he has to be tovel himself. Anything that needs tefillah. And he didn't do the tefillah metamas hakodesh. It's metamas hakodesh upeisas hatruma, and it even passes the truma ad kedei kach that it becomes a revi. Even from a shlishi to revi, by truma it can become a revi. But umut v'chulim ma'isa sheni. But by chulim and ma'isa sheni, it's not metama because there's no shlishi when it comes to chulin. Something that's chulin, it stops by sheni. Sheni cannot be metama a meichel of chulin, or sheni cannot be metama something that was bought with ma'isa sheni money to shlishi. That's divrei Rabbein. Those are the words of Rameya. But the chachamim oisim ma'isa. The chachamim say by ma'isa, yes, something that was bought with ma'isa sheni. Chachamim say if his hands are tamei and the shniyah, it can make a shlishi. How do you know that that it's talking about Nagia Mimai Dilmad Kamle Pliya. Maybe this that we said that the Shlishi, even the Shlishi becomes Asur. That the machlek is between Rabban and Ameya is Elabachilis Maisa. Only if the guy who is Tamei, his hands are Tamei, and he eats it. So if he eats it, yeah, that's like a Shlishi, because his hands touch the food and then he ate it. Then by Achila, he's eating the Maisa Sheni meat that he bought with Maisa Sheni. So then it's awesome. Aval b'menagia the Maisa. Right, but if he touched just the Maisa Sheni, or V'achila the Chulin with his hands, so maybe he won't become a Shlishi. Or V'achila the Chulin, if his own hands are Tamei and he eats the Chulin, Loi Pligi. There nobody argues that it won't become Tamei. It won't be Aser. Says the Gemara, V'anagiyahi. Says the Gemara, but the Ikar Kavan in the Mishnah we see, we're talking about that it's Muta B'Nagiyah. Where do we see that? It's what does it mean? Ne'echolin means that it's given to others to eat. So the guy who has tummy dika hands, who's shniyim, he's going to touch the food to give somebody else to eat. So that's called touching a shlishi. And our Mishnah says if it would have been blood, it would have been asa. Are we then not talking about touching? The kasafalei chavrei, we're talking about that he's giving his friend to eat, which is a shlishi. And our Mishnah said the only reason why he could do it because there was no blood. But if there was blood that touched the meat, it would be asa. Hello, Papa. So the shayla comes back. How could it be asa? Asheri doesn't make a shlishi. Hello, Papa said, it's talking about that the Yadayim was a rishay. So he had, it's not a sheni. Stam Yadayim Ashniyim, but we're talking about a case that his hands were rishenis. So how was it rishenis? Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. It follows the Shita of Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. The Tanya that we learned in the Braisa, Ein Yadayim Tchilas L'Chulin. The Tana Kama says, Yadayim can never become a rishay by Chulin. Never. Okay? Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Rabbi Meir, Yadayim Tchilas L'Chulin. I can find your case by Chulin that the hands could become a rishon l'tuma. Or we'll soon get to it. Ushniyes l'truma. And it'll be shniyes, stam yadayim will be shniyes l'truma. In fact, what are you talking about? Truma is more chamor. If it's tchilas l'chulin in l'truma loy, if the hands are going to be a case of tchilas, a rishon, by Chulin, and you're going to say by Truma not? Truma is more chama for sure, Truma. So Gemara Hakikama. Tchilais af lechulin. It doesn't mean not letruma. Not only letruma, but also you can have tchilais, meaning that a hand will be a truma of a rishain, even by chulin. Shniyas letruma in lechulin loy. Shniyas letruma, meaning that stam yadayim letruma will be matame, but lechulin loy. That there's no such a thing that shniyas will make a shlishi by chulin. In fact, you want to know me ikar yadayim tchilis? Is there such an oifen that the yadayim should be the shaynes? Says you want to in yes. Weird. It's now we learned in the Mishnah. Hichnes yodav labayis hamanuga. If somebody stuck his hand into a house where there was tzaras. There was tzaras on the walls, discoloration in the house. So the hand really doesn't become tummy, only if the whole goof goes in. But it was excited the hand because if it will allow the hand to go in and we'll say it's not tummy, he'll think, I can go with my whole goof, I won't be tummy. Right, so then he'll walk in with his whole body and he'll think it's not a problem. Yadav Dibra Rabbi Akiva says, Rabbi Akiva says the hands become rishenis. No, the Chum say the hands remain shniyas. So the Kuliyama, everybody really agrees. Biya mixes lishma. If he only put in his hand and he didn't go with the whole goof into a house where there was a discoloration, where there was tzaras, he's not tummy. There's no real tumah. Minatayni is not tummy. It's a gzeira. Yodavata gufay. If he's going to take out with his hands, we're going to say you're allowed to put in your hands and take out stuff. So then I'll say, I'm allowed to do it with my hands. I'll go with my whole goof. So therefore, The Marsa of Rabbi Akiva held Yotam Kiguvish Shavin Rabbanon. The Rabbanon said, hey, the tumah that the guf has, the hand is going to have that same tumah of a rishon, or be a rishon. But the
Rishon is the
Omar,
same as an Av tumah?
no, Av is first, then goes
Rishon?
rishon, then shem. But Omar, the Chacham Sava, Yodayim ki Yodayim le'alma Shavin Rabbanon. We won't make it a rishon. We'll make it like we always say, that the highest level that a hand could become tummy is shniyas. Okay, says Gemara Dilma, perhaps Kikama with Rabbi Akiva. Oh, 1 second. Frag Gemara Velukma. Let Rabbi Papa establish the Mishnah ki Rabbi Akiva. The Oma Yodav Tchilas Havoyan. That the hands are Tchilas. Rabbi Papa says it's shy that hands should be a rishon. So why don't Rabbi Akiva is the one that said it's a rishon. So why do you say it goes like you established that it goes like a papa? Say it goes like Rabbi Akiva who said that this case of Hichnes Yodov, the Beis Hamanuga, his hand becomes tummy like his goal for Rishon. Divrei Rabbi Akiva. Why did you say that? Why did you establish that the Mishnah? I'm sorry, like Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar. Why didn't you establish it like Rabbi Akiva who says here? He says, "You want to Dilma ki kama Rabbi Akiva." When did Rabbi Akiva put the hands in the level of a Rishon? Hani mili b'tumim v'kadoshim the chamiri. Only when it's b'shaychus to tumah and kachim in such a kedusha, we put in the hands into a high level of tumah.
Hands touches kachim.
If the hand will touch kachim, we'll consider the hand as a rishon.
And it makes the kachim
Shane, avlin Chullin. But when it comes to Chullin,
the hands
I'll say no. Shnei Savyan. Then we'll only have a din like a sheni.
the hands are
Right. Says the Gemara v'lehavya nami shniyos. The Gemara says like this: let it even be shniyos. Let the hands be shniyos. And the Hashaminu le'il Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva, we heard about Rabbi Akiva the Amma sheni oiseh shlishi v'chulin. Rabbi Akiva says even though it's a sheni, by chulin it can make a shlishi too.
Oh, that's not.
The Tanam boy by Yoim, and that day when they appointed Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, and they removed Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel from the Siyos, and we know that when Rabbi Elazar ben Rabbi Gamliel only allowed students that were Teichi Kebada into the Beis HaMedrash, so he had very few students. When Rabbi Elazar, when they appointed Rabbi Elazar as the Nasi, all of a sudden he let everybody in. Is given the limudim is given asach mesh shilas. So he says because of that day where there was so many much more shilas because thousands upon thousands of more talmidim came. So there was more competition, more shilas. So does Rabbi Akiva? That's the day when Rabbi Akiva was talking with his friends and he came up with a brainstorm. Rabbi Akiva darshan v'chol kli cheres. It says any earthenware, yitma. If a sheretz comes into the ear of a kli cheres, the whole and all the food in it becomes yitma. Says Gemara Tomei lo yinama yitma. It doesn't say that the food in it becomes tamei. It says yitma. Yitma means letamel acherim, that it can be matame others. So you see, a sheni can make a shlishi. Leaving the al kikar sheni shu oiseh shlishi b'chulim. It teaches us that the kikar that had the sheretz in the ear of the kli. That food, yitma, that kikar becomes yitma, meaning, which is a sheni, kemachal shlishi.
That's Rabbi Akiva.
That's Rabbi Akiva. So you see, even by Chullin, says you want to do hani mili, but tumah daraisa. Maybe he says only by the tumah of isa daraisa, like sheretz. Aval b'shniyas derabanan, like stam yodayim. We say hands are automatically tummy because you don't know where you touched. Hands are always touching places. Loi, so maybe Rabbi Akiva wouldn't make it a shlishi b'chulim when it's a tumah derabanan. Versus Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar makes it clear that it's metama shlishi. The sheni is metama shlishi.